you can still see me though, right?
Yes, I can. I like your background again. It's
Oh,
pretty.
thank you. All righty. Thank you. So it looks like we're live. I just need to join you. And Nick Carlina. Good morning, Carlina. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? I'm doing well. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you for joining us. So we've got Leslie Page Piper, who is a founding member. We've got Carlina Melo Nogales, who is our recently hired associate. She's focusing on marketing efforts and being helpful whenever she can be. And I really, really appreciate her. These two ladies are a godsend to the nonprofit Utopia community. Hi, this is Valerie Leonard. I want to welcome everyone, say good morning to you all. If you're watching from Facebook, we have included a link so you can join us here in the Zoom room, you in any of the live streaming sources. So that could be Facebook, that could be LinkedIn, that could be YouTube, that could be Periscope. Wherever you see us streaming, in the description at the very bottom, we have Zoom room instructions and you can come join us in Zoom. Feel free to make any comments that you'd like as we continue on. And I won't be able to see those comments, but I tell you, as soon as this is over, I will review the comments and comment appropriately.
I'll read them to you.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Again, my name is Valerie Leonard. I am the founder of Nonprofit Utopia. I want to welcome you here. We're going to be focusing this month, the month of August, on strategic planning. And today we're going to focus on how you can develop your mission, vision, and core value statements. If you want to find out more about Nonprofit Utopia, please go to nonprofitutopia.com, or if you want to join the community, you can go to nonprofitutopia.mn.co. If you are interested in keeping in touch with me, here is my card. If you just point your smartphone to this QR code, you will get my business card. All right, so without further ado, I am going to share my screen and then share the presentation. All righty. Today, we're going to be focusing again, as I said before, on how to develop your mission, vision, and statement of core values. And this is all within the context of a strategic planning process. And it doesn't necessarily have to be within the context of a strategic planning process. If you're starting a new organization, this is always a good place to start. And whenever you make any decisions, whenever you make any new programs or any of that stuff, you should always visit your mission, vision, and core value statements. All righty, so before we go there, I'd like to always start out with who we are. We are Nonprofit Utopia, and we're the ideal community for emerging nonprofit leaders. And we've created a very safe environment in which our members can innovate, they can share lessons learned, they can also plot and plan new program design ideas. And again, if you want to know more about us, you can go to nonprofitutopia.com. That's our public website. And then you can also join us at nonprofitutopia.mn.co. That is our community. And our mission is to develop the next generation of ethical nonprofit leaders. And the way we do this is through an online community, through coaching and consulting. And we provide ongoing professional development opportunities such as this, in which nonprofit professionals can exchange information And our overall goal is to make sure that we can give our members the tools that they need to build their own skills as well as develop their own sustainable organizations. And we're trying to create an environment in which more seasoned nonprofit professionals can share their lessons learned with up and coming emerging nonprofit leaders. So if you are a more seasoned leader who wants to share some insights with emerging nonprofit leaders, we encourage you to join. If you are an emerging leader who could stand to learn from some of the mistakes folks in my generation have made, we'd be more than happy to have you. Again, you can go to nonprofitutopia.mn.co. And our vision is to actually strengthen the global nonprofit sector. And we're going to do this by training up to 50,000 people between now and 2033. And we'll be doing that through a number of ways. That will be through consulting, that will be through coaching, that will be through our podcasts, our online community, webinars like this, and articles, and our website, and all that good stuff. And just to give you a little bit about myself, again, I'm the host of Nonprofit Utopia, as well as the founder of Nonprofit Utopia LLC. I also host a podcast, and I'm on staff with University of Illinois at Chicago, teaching courses in nonprofit management, things like strategic planning, board development, and all that good stuff. I am also on staff at Roosevelt teaching social ventures. And those of you who have been with us, just by way of review, and then those of you who are just joining us today, just want to let you know that we have been at this for 3 days. This is our 4th day now. We started off with the community needs assessment, showing our members and the people who were watching how to develop a community needs assessment, how to actually engage in the research, how to make sure that you can identify the problems. And we followed up by developing a theory of change, showing you how to develop a theory of change and develop solutions to the problems that you have identified, and also find ways to find cause and effect so that the solutions that you have are actually going to, make a difference. And then yesterday or Monday, we focused on assessing organizational stakeholders. So we looked at assessing the capacity of the organization, looking at the strengths and weaknesses, assessing who our partners are, who our friends and foes are, and all that good stuff. Also assessing who our clients were, and then looking at ways that our stakeholders can contribute to make sure that the strategic planning process is in fact successful. And no man is an island. You can't plan in an island. And it's very important to engage stakeholders, or those people who are going to be impacted either positively or negatively by the programs and services and by the strategic plans that we develop. So if you want to look at these videos, you can go to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Nonprofit Utopia, and we have a number of other videos too that you'll find of interest. So what we're going to cover today, I think today will be a little bit shorter than normal. We're going to just give you a brief overview of what a mission statement is, the definition of what a vision statement is, definition of core values, and then most importantly, how you craft your statement, for mission, vision, and core values. All right, so as many of you probably know, a mission statement is a broad statement that tells why an organization does what it does, and sometimes it tells you how. And ideally, you want to make sure that it's short enough that people can remember, but broad enough to make sure that you cover what it is you're trying to do. So you always keep in mind, why you're doing what you do, who your target is, and how you're going to actually achieve the mission. And your vision statement is actually an aspirational statement. And it talks about what the world is going to look like as a result of any strategic plan you do, as a result of any program, any intervention you do. You always want to cast a wide vision, and you want to do it in such a way that it's a vision that's lofty and you may never achieve it. And in this case, never achieving it doesn't have to be a failure. It'll be, for example, you want to eradicate poverty. There's no such thing as a poor person in the United States. We know that that may be impossible to achieve, but it's always a lofty goal that keeps us moving forward in the work that we do. And then finally, we want to look at core values. So those core values are those absolutes. Those are the things that really at the core, for lack of a better word, when the going gets rough, what's going to be your guiding principles? What are those principles that guide your actions, guide your decisions, guide the programs and services that you have, and even guides the type of funding that you receive? All right, so at the very core, and core values, that's something we as individuals have, and organizations have their core values as well. All right, so this is not the end. I just went through the process of describing, defining what mission, vision, and core values are. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to share with you some tools that you can use to do this at home. All right. So if you can just bear with me, I need to share my screen again. All right, so can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so this is an exercise that I like to use with my clients to help them flesh out their mission statements. And it's easy, I guess, to develop a mission statement off the top of your head and say, this is what we're going to do, and this is who we're going to serve, and this is why. But I think that going through a process where you're really being reflective as an individual and then being reflective in a group setting, that helps you to go deeper and really develop a powerful mission statement that everybody can buy into and is very, very lofty. And when you take into account your stakeholders and what's going on in the community, you come up with a very, very powerful mission statement that's relevant to the community. And it's also something that inspires all the people around the table. All right, so as we said before, a mission statement is a broad statement that tells why an organization exists, what it does, and how they do it. It should be succinct and easy to remember. And then, after that, you kind of go into what it is. So in this case, I developed a worksheet for organizations that are in existence and they're revisiting their mission, trying to see if the mission is still relevant after all these years. And this is also an exercise that you should go through when you're developing a brand spanking new organization. So if you are an existing organization, you'll focus on this question. If you're a new organization, you will skip this. So for the existing organizations, I had them go through an exercise of starting, sharing what the mission currently is, right? And then given where the organization wants to go next, does this statement still embody the essence of the organization? And then asking a question, what issues would the organization address? And this is why it's so important to go through the community needs assessment first and go through the theory of change assessment first, because then you can actually develop a mission that is very responsive to the needs of the community, and you can do it in such a way that is evidence-based, that is backed up by the data. You've got proof that there's a need and you've got proof of some solutions that could potentially work, and then you're developing your mission around that. Then you'll ask yourselves, what are the organization be doing? Who is the organization's primary target? What's unique about your organization and its approach to this work? And what do you hope the end result of your work is going to be? So given the answers to those questions, then I ask each member who's participating to take a stab at writing a mission statement. And then we come together and then we throw our best ideas on the table and then negotiate as to, what parts of each statement that we're going to keep, which parts we're going to throw away. Okay, are there any questions before I go to the next tool? All righty. So,
No question.
okay. All right, thank you. So the next exercise is the vision statement. All right, so a vision statement is an aspirational description of what an organization would like to achieve or accomplish in the midterm or the long-term future. It's intended to serve as a clear guide for choosing current and future courses of action. And I got that from the businessdictionary.com. So again, in this case, if the organization is looking to revisit its mission, and I know that sounds crazy, but in this time of COVID-19, a lot of things that we used to do and a lot of ways that we used to do it are no longer working. So it behooves all of us, regardless of what we're doing, whether we're in nonprofit, whether we're in for-profit, and even for our personal leadership plans, to revisit our mission, vision, and core value statements. So in this case, you want to start off with the vision statement if you're an existing organization. If you are starting out, you skip question number 1, and then you go to question 2. Given where the organization wants to go next, does the statement still reflect the vision? And how does the organization see itself in the long term? So it's also, it's self-reflection, seeing how you see yourself within the community within which you work and how you can impact change. So if the organization is truly effective in the work that it does, what will the future, so in this case, I use this with Fathers for the Future. So what will the future of the organization look like? So you can just insert your name, insert your organization's name right there instead of Fathers for the Future. And given the answers to these questions, what do you think the new vision statement should be? And I know we're going through this very, very quickly, but it's not unusual for organizations to spend days and hours fleshing through these ideas, nitpicking. If you ever understood the importance of language before, if you didn't understand it before, you will definitely understand the importance of language and nuance, splitting splitting hairs and all that good stuff. All right. So are there any questions before I move on to the next exercise, next worksheet?
No
No,
questions here on Facebook.
All righty. None on Facebook either, right?
Correct. No questions.
Okay, great. All right, and then this third worksheet, this was developed by an organization called Community Engaged Leaders. And this is an exercise, that's similar to other exercises I've seen other groups put together. And basically, again, looking at your core values. In this case, it defined what the core values are, what the value statements are, and why they're important. And basically with value statements, you are laying the groundwork for the culture of your organization. You're creating an ideal environment in which you want to work within the context of the community within which you want to work. And core values, we don't think about them until I guess the rubber meets the road, until there's a crisis at hand, till there's some conflict at hand. And we have to really, really, really be careful about what our core values really are, what we say they are, and what they really are. Bottom line is our core values are really determined by our actions, not what we say. And you will really understand an organization when the organization can really live up to their core values as stated, or if their actions are somewhat in conflict with their core values. And the same thing with mission. You know, you want to be very, very clear when you write the vision and mission, and you want to not take this lightly. So the way this particular exercise works is you go through a list of these terms, go through a list of these words, and you circle the ones that resonate with you personally, your top 5. So you go around the table, you know, this could be board members, anybody who's participating in the strategic planning process. It could be community stakeholders, people who work for the organization, your funders, you know, anybody who's participating in your strategic planning process. And once each individual gets their list together, then the group comes together and shares their list as individuals. And then what you do is you kind of listen for patterns to emerge, and you see the core values that that resonate with most people who are going to be in the leadership group. And really your stakeholders, they should be in leadership, although it'll be at various levels. But you really want to take into account the people who are around the table. And the top ones that filter up, then those become the organizational core values. Or if you're working with a collaboration, then those become the collaboration's core values. All right. So are there any questions before I show you how this all comes together?
No questions on Facebook.
All right. Again, I said that this would be short. I want to show you one example of how this was used and how it all came together. As some of you may or may not know, I was a founding member of a group called North Lawndale Community Coordinating Council. Actually, the work of that group started with the Lawndale Alliance. We were charged with coordinating a strategic planning or community planning process. So on the ground floor, you know, and I will say I'm no longer with them, but I played a very integral role in developing the infrastructure. So many of the processes that are in place now, fundraising and all that good stuff, I play a very integral role. So I still have this file. And what we did was we filled out sheets similar to what I just described. And we actually did a survey since the group was relatively large, the steering committee was relatively large. We did a survey to get people's feedback on what their core values were, and whatever floated to the top, you know, those were the ones that we took into account. So when it came to our core values, we said The North Lawndale Community Coordinating Council is guided by 9 core values. We are authentic and sincere in our community outreach and engagement. We are strategic in our implementation of community-driven initiatives and allocation of resources. We are transparent in our decision-making processes and communication of results. We are ethical in all of our dealings. So I'm putting emphasis on the words in bold because those are the words that people around the table said that they were, that these were things that resonated with them. We are accountable to the North Lawndale community, its stakeholders, and the general public. We are open-minded in our approaches to solving problems and engaging community stakeholders. And we are respectful in our interaction with everyone with whom we come in contact during the transaction of official NLCCC business and in our representation of the group. And we are a group that provides a safe space for self-expression. So when we were at the table, these are things that we said we agreed upon. We were trying at that time to create an environment. I know this is what was going through my mind. We were trying to create an environment in which people felt free to express their opinions and not feel like they could be damaged in any way, or there would be some retaliation or negative feeling in the event that someone said something that wasn't, that people wouldn't necessarily agree with. We wanted an environment in which people understood the decisions that were made, why they were made. And we wanted to make sure that we were fair and respectful and ethical, making sure that we didn't have things like conflicts of interest, right? And we wanted to make sure that we were accountable for the funds that were spent, accountable for decisions that were made. We wanted to be respectful to everyone, because all too often when we get in position of power and when we do community planning, we sometimes, even though we're marginalized, we sometimes marginalize others in our community. So we wanted to make sure stuff like that didn't happen. And we wanted to also make sure that we were engaging people in an authentic way rather than going through the motions. We didn't want to be in a position where we said one thing, but our actions said something else. And really our actions were speaking louder than our words. We wanted to make sure that we operated in integrity so that the things that we said we were the things that we actually were. Okay, so that's the process that we went through. And after going through developing the core values, and after looking at what was going on in the community, we came up with the mission statement. The North Lawndale Community Coordinating Council transforms the physical, economic, and social fiber of the community through strategic and comprehensive planning, civic engagement, and implementation of stakeholder-driven initiatives. That means that when we started, we wanted to make sure the people who were driving the community planning process were the people who lived there. We wanted to make sure it was healthy, it was vibrant, and not necessarily healthy and vibrant because only new people were going to enjoy this healthy and vibrant community. We wanted to make sure we created a healthy and vibrant community for the people who still live there. And our approach at the time was we continually develop and execute bold community-driven solutions with the input of an engaged community. And the community, in my mind, was residents. All right, not only residents, but stakeholders. And you want to have a balance between the community and other stakeholders and not necessarily have institutions and nonprofits driving the development. All right, so we wanted to have an engaged community that questions assumptions. Again, going back to that ability to express and question and not feel that you're being treated like a criminal because you dare ask questions that no one else would ask. Questions assumptions about what they say about our community in a negative way, that nothing good could come out of North Lawndale. And we also wanted a process that would challenge the status quo. We didn't want to, at least we said we didn't want to become the status quo. We wanted to push the envelope. We wanted to achieve things that no one believed we could. All right. So that concludes our presentation. Are there any questions? I'm going to stop sharing.
No questions so far.
All righty.
Val, I just want to interject here. I very much like your philosophy in terms of community development, with the stakeholders being those that don't have any more say so than the residents, and bringing it all together and synthesizing it. I'm going to let you know, I really appreciate that approach.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, it's easy to say that that's what our approach is. It really is a challenge to make sure that happens.
Yes.
It's very, very hard, especially for planning processes, because
Yes.
sometimes doing a planning process is about as interesting as watching paint dry. It's a very long process, and
Yes.
you won't see the results, for 2 or 3 years down the road. And to be able to make sure that you keep people who live in the community engaged and make sure that they're compensated, and compensation doesn't always have to be money, but when there is money, it really helps that the people who are at the table giving the ideas are compensated, rather than, the tendency is to have people in the community doing much of the work and then paying other people who had nothing to do with the planning, which can be very disheartening. I've experienced that, and it was devastating, quite frankly. And the sad thing, I'm not the only one. That happens. Leslie, I'm sure you've had similar experiences. I can name others who've had similar experiences. We have to get to the point where we're walking the walk that we talk. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Exactly. I'm a very idealistic person, and I'd like to try to make the theory practical. And I honestly, do try to engage people from the community as best I can in any process that I work with.
It shows.
No. All righty. So it looks like we have a very small group here. If there are any questions or comments on YouTube, on Facebook, I will be sure to respond when I can. And I thank you guys for your attention. And again, I know this was a short meeting. However, don't be fooled by the fact that we went through this quickly. You could take days to pull through this. It took us, quite a while to flesh out the mission, vision, and core value statement. And that's something that I work with community groups all the time on. All right. So again, if you have any questions, you can email me at ValerieFLeonard@nonprofitutopia.com. You can follow us at Nonprofit Utopia on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook If you want my business card, you can point your phone at this QR code and you'll get a picture of my business card as well as links to our social media as well as our website. All right, so without further ado, I am going to leave you guys, and then Carlina, I will be in touch with you very shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.